From the enigmatic Jack the Ripper to the notorious Ted Bundy, these figures continue to incite fear and morbid fascination. Below we present 10 of the most notorious serial killers who have left a bloody legacy in history. Number 1. Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess. Between 1560 and 1614, Elizabeth Bathory earned the macabre nickname Blood Countess, although the true extent of her crimes is still subject to debate. As an influential Hungarian noblewoman, Bathory is believed to have tortured and killed dozens of servants and lesser nobles before being imprisoned in 1610. Despite not being formally convicted of any crime, and many of the allegations of her bloody deeds coming from questionable witnesses, the Guinness World Records recognizes her as the most prolific female murderer in history, attributing her with around 600 victims. Some even speculate that Bathory might have inspired Bram Stoker's classic vampire novel, Dracula, published in 1897. Number 2. Bel Gunnis, the mysterious murderess. Between 1859 and around 1930, the shocking acts attributed to Bel Gunnis were almost as impactful as her unsolved disappearance. In 1908, authorities discovered the remains of over 40 victims on her property, an unimaginable horror scene. Born Brynhild Paulsdatter Streth in Norway, Gunnis moved to the United States in 1881. Soon, she was involved in several suspicious deaths, including those of 2 husbands, many linked to insurance schemes. Additionally, she kept a column to attract unsuspecting victims to her farm, where many disappeared forever. Although it's believed that Gunnis died in a fire at her farm in 1908, a worker later confessed to having helped plan the fire and her escape. Gunnis's final whereabouts and death remain an unresolved mystery to this day. Number 3. H. Holmes. Born Herman Webster Mudgett in New Hampshire, H. Holmes became known as one of the first serial killers in the United States, responsible for an estimated 20 to 200 murders. During his 27 years in custody, Holmes confessed to his heinous acts. Using the pseudonym Holmes due to his pharmacy training, he built a 3-story building in Chicago known as the infamous Murder Castle, where he tortured and killed his victims. Known as the Beast of Chicago, Holmes was finally captured in 1894 and hanged for the murder of Benjamin Peitzel, 2 years after his arrest. The gruesome crimes of H. Holmes were immortalized in the 23 book by author Eric Larson, The Devil in the White City, demonstrating the lasting impact of his actions. Number 4. Jack the Ripper, the unsolved mystery. The true identity of Jack the Ripper, who murdered and mutilated at least 5 prostitutes in London's East End in 1888, remains one of the greatest mysteries in criminal history. In the nearly 140 years since, more than 100 suspects have been suggested, but none have been definitively identified as the Ripper. Despite the lack of concrete identification, that hasn't stopped professional and amateur investigators from trying to crack the case. In 2023, a book even claimed that cigar maker Chaim Hyams was responsible for the crimes, while a viral TikTok theory suggested that painter and sculptor Edgar Degas could be the killer. The quest to uncover the true identity of Jack the Ripper continues to fascinate and intrigue the public and scholars, perpetuating the mystery that seems to resist the passage of time. Number 5. Alberto Di Salvo. Born in 1931, Albert Di Salvo grew up in an abusive household and from a young age showed a penchant for crime, starting with petty thefts at the age of 6. His criminal life led him in and out of prison for various minor offenses. However, these acts seemed insignificant compared to his shocking confession in 1965, where he claimed to be the Boston Strangler, responsible for the murder of 13 women during the 1960s. Although his admission was surrounded by controversy and doubts persist about its veracity, Di Salvo was marked as a cruel and hardened criminal. We may never know the full truth of Di Salvo's actions. He was stabbed to death in prison in November 1973. 50 years later, Di Salvo's story continued to captivate the public with the release of the movie Boston Strangler on Hulu, rekindling interest and discussions around the case. Number 6. John Wayne Gacy, the Killer Clown. John Wayne Gacy, born in 1942, became notoriously known for his appearances as Pogo or Patches the Clown at parades and hospitals, as well as for his atrocious crimes. During the 1970s, Gacy murdered at least 33 young men and teens at his home in Norwood Park, Illinois, often torturing and strangling his victims. In March 1980, after a highly publicized trial, a jury took less than 2 hours to declare Gacy guilty of the murders, resulting in his death sentence. Gacy was executed by lethal injection on May 10, 1994. His last meal was a peculiar combination of fried chicken, shrimp, French fries, and strawberries. Gacy's infamy continues to provoke horror and fascination, with his atrocities remaining etched in collective memory as one of the most terrifying examples of a serial killer. Number 7. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam. David Berkowitz, born in 1953, returned to New York in 1974 after serving in the U.S. Army and began working for the U.S. Postal Service. Few could have imagined that the reserved Berkowitz would transform into the infamous killer known as the Son of Sam, responsible for a series of murders that terrorized the city. Between 1976 and 1977, Berkowitz committed 6 murders for which he pleaded guilty. He initially claimed that he was ordered to kill by his neighbor's dog, a Labrador retriever possessed by a demon named Harvey. However, he later retracted this claim, admitting it was a crazy invention. Currently, David Berkowitz is serving his sentence at the Shawangunk Correctional Facility in New York. His story remains one of the most disturbing in modern criminology, highlighting the horrors that can be hidden under a facade of normality. Number 8. Dennis Rader, the infamous BTK killer. Dennis Rader, born in 1945, led a double life. By day, he was a family man and respectable businessman in the community of Wichita, Kansas, but he harbored a sinister side. Between 1974 and 1991, Rader murdered 10 people in and around Wichita. He became infamous for taunting authorities with written clues, referring to his method of bind, torture, kill, BTK, which earned him the notorious BTK Killer moniker. Rader managed to evade capture for decades, but in February 2005, he was finally arrested. Rader pled guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder and is now serving 10 consecutive life sentences. Even in prison, Rader continues to correspond regularly through letters and notably compared himself to the Gilgo Beach murder suspect, Rex Heuermann, in 2023. Dennis Rader's story is a disturbing reminder of how evil can lurk beneath the facade of the everyday, and his name remains a symbol of the horrors he inflicted on the Wichita community. Number 9. Ted Bundy, the charming killer. Ted Bundy, born in 1946 and executed in 1989, became a near-celebrity figure during his 1979 trial for the murder of 2 Florida State University students. His charming and crafty persona masked something far more sinister and terrifying. Bundy was convicted of the murders and executed in the electric chair in January 1989. However, his violent activities were much broader than the charges for which he was tried. He confessed to killing 36 women across several states in the U.S., although some experts believe the real number of victims could exceed 100. Bundy's story has served as inspiration for numerous books, documentaries, and dramatizations. One of the most notable was the 2019 film Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, starring Zac Efron as Bundy and Lily Collins as his real-life girlfriend, Elizabeth Kloepfer. Ted Bundy's horrific saga highlights the capacity for human cruelty masked by a facade of charm and intelligence, leaving a lasting impact on popular culture and criminal investigations. Number 10. Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper. Peter Sutcliffe, born in 1946 and deceased in 2020, became infamous as the Yorkshire Ripper for bringing terror to northern England between 1975 and 1980. During this dark period, Sutcliffe murdered at least 13 women, leaving a trail of fear and tragedy. The police dedicated around 2.5 million hours in pursuit of Sutcliffe, interviewing him 9 times before his eventual capture in 1981. At his trial, Sutcliffe remarked, "It was a miracle they didn't catch me earlier. They had all the facts." He was found guilty of 13 murders and 7 counts of attempted murder, receiving a sentence of 20 concurrent life sentences. Sutcliffe's crimes and the resulting investigation formed the basis for the true crime series The Long Shadow, released by ITV in 2023, which explores the depths of his evil and the devastating impact on his victims and their families. Peter Sutcliffe's story serves as a grim reminder of the failures in police investigation and of human cruelty, remaining a terrifying chapter in the UK's criminal history. Enjoyed the story? Subscribe to the channel and leave in the comments any interesting facts about other famous individuals you know.